Welcome to episode 278 of the Alamo Audible podcast. As your host, Jared Kalmas, joined as always by my co-host, Adrian Bermudez. And Adrian, I'm feeling really good about this podcast. I've got a good vibe all day long. Um, if you were to ask me what's going to make this podcast special, we're not going to break anything crazy that people haven't heard before. It's not going to be our most watched podcast, but we're going to give perfect effort. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
Adrian and I were talking before we hit record, and we were talking about like the backdrop of our video, and the only like UTSA stuff I have in this office right here is this golden Roadrunner that my wife got for me. And I was telling Adrian, like, no one ever comments on it because it's like way back in the corner. So he's like, just throw it on your desk. So maybe it'll bring some good luck for the Roadrunners. Maybe they'll get the season turned around. But it's gonna be a tough assignment, tough opponent this week against Colorado State up in Fort Collins.
May the spirit of the Golden Road Runner be with this team, be with the Triangle, and be with this podcast. God bless and birds up. Yes, indeed.
Amen.
It is, Jared. I think just winning does that to a man. You win a little bit and you feel really good the next day, the next week. And it's difficult, right? Because it's a game you're supposed to win. It's a game you're supposed to dominate, win handily. UTSA did just that with the 48-20 victory over Crosstown, the hometown showdown, UIW Cardinals. And we jump out to a 31-0 lead to start. We turn the ball over 4 times on the day, 3 of which happened on the first 5 possessions for UIW.
Poor Richard Torres, man. But they had that boy in a blender.
They had the boy in a blender. And it's some San Antonio on San Antonio crime.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you have a big win in a game in which you are supposed to win big, and it's your first win of the season after what can, I think, definitively be called a lackluster start, you have got to keep your cool, right? You got to remain with your wherewithal and not read too much into a 48-20 W over an FCS opponent, right? And I think that's what we've got to do here as a team, as a locker room, as a fan base, is not get lost in the sauce. This is a team that had a lot of inconsistencies through the first 2 weeks. A Texas State loss that was absolutely devastating to a fan base. You bounce back, you get a win in a game that you're supposed to win, but all those little inconsistencies, how much better are they actually getting? It's very hard to gauge that measurement against the UIW. Plain and simple. It is what it is.
Yeah, and I'll say too. I mean, you and I had very different takeaways from that game than I think a lot of the fan base did, because both of us felt pretty good about the performance. And no, of course, it wasn't perfect, and there's things we're going to critique on this pod, as we always will. But like some of the reactions from the fan base have kind of shocked me. Like people are saying, move off of Owen McCowan and put Brandon Tennyson as a starter, and that it was a super sloppy performance and all that. And like, yeah, it wasn't the best game in the world, but I don't know what people like really expect. I think maybe just the style of play was not as sexy and flashy as people wanted it to be, but you get out to a 31-0 lead, it's not going to be 80-yard touchdown throw bombs on every play. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting.
It's a first half shutout. UTSA goes up 31-0 with the first half shutout. Like, did you want the Roadrunners to win like 72-0? Like we never have done that. We didn't even do that with Frank Harrison in the University of Hands back whenever we had him. So like I think that's a little bit of an outlandish expectation. But I think what more so it is, Jared, it's a culmination of fan frustration from the first 2 weeks. And really like the frustration being 2 weeks worth is also kind of unwarranted because you played Texas A&M in week 1, who, by the way, just beat Notre Dame and is now 3-0 and the 10th ranked team in the country, which Jared did make a point on. I can't remember if it was the post-game reaction or when we were taking the frustration hotline lost trauma calls in our Patreon episode last week. But you said, Jared, there could be a point in the season where we look back and Texas A&M and Texas State are extremely good teams. And it makes those losses much more quality, right, than than what they might appear to be in the first 2 weeks of the season. It looks like that's going to be the case for Texas A&M, who's playing extremely well right now. Texas State, I think, is where all these fans have all this frustration, and I think maybe a lot of it is still pretty pent up. It is what it is, dude. We're not going to get that one back, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I was extremely hard on this team after the Texas State game. If you're subscribed to the Audible newsletter,
Ooh,
uh,
buddy.
when I went back and read it, I was like, okay, I went a little too far on this one. And it was a one touchdown game. It went to the very end.
Have you made a comment in the group chat about how hard Adrian went or something like that? And I'm like, he just wrote that this morning, like Thursday morning, like
4 days after the game, 5 days after the game.
He did not flush and forget it. He did not. Is it FIDO? Was the acronym?
It's hard. It's hard with a rivalry game, but I think a lot of fans still feel that pent up emotion I did. I think once I got it out on paper, and it was one of those, like, after I wrote it out, I probably should have erased all of it and then started it over. But I got it out. I got it on the paper. And then after I sent it out, I was like, okay, we actually did not play as bad as what I wrote on this newsletter. But unacceptable nevertheless to lose to Texas State. Anyways, we're here to talk about UIW.
Before we get like too deep into the details, I think like two things like really define the game for UTSA. On the defensive side, they were able to generate turnovers for really the first time in a while. We saw UTSA end their streak of having a sack and a turnover in every game for like 15, 16 games straight or something like that. 4 of them against Incarnate Word. Some of them were kind of unforced. Like there was the one where Richard Torres just kind of ran into the running back and fumbled the ball. You can't take a whole lot of credit for that one. But like Davin Morton's interception was nice. Shad Banks' interception was nice.
Yeah.
And then Jamarius Lewis's forced fumble was really, really impressive. And one of the better defensive plays we've seen from UTSA this year. So I think they get a lot of credit there. That's kind of the story of the game on defense for me, at least on the good end. We'll get into the bad stuff later. But then on offense, it's just like a very dink and dunk approach to the offense. Like a crazy number of screen passes. They were just playing very horizontal, I guess you could say. Took maybe like 4 shots downfield all game. Only connected on 1, I think it was. So it was not very fun to watch, but it was working. UTSA moved the ball very, very consistently. And they actually were able to turn a handful of those screens into like really big chunk plays as well. I think 3 different touchdowns came on screen plays. So, if the defense is giving up and it's working, I don't see a need to go deep in your bag and expose more of your playbook.
Right.
Before games are going to matter more, or that you're going to need those plays in more. So
I saw a lot of the frustration with the east to west offensive approach.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a lot of people voice that when I look at the group chats and the social medias. And I understand it because it does seem like we've had a lot of that east and west type of offense through the first 3 weeks. But I'll say this week in particular, the east and west is warranted. You talk about keeping stuff behind wraps on film for whenever you get into conference play. But the other part of it is, Jared, you were after the first fumble, you were 33 yards away from the goal line. And then after the interception, you were 39 yards away from the goal line. And then you were, 46 yards away from the goal line. These are very, very short fields that UTSA offense needed to go down in order to punch 7 onto the board. I mean,
as of this week, UTSA is second in the country in starting field position.
I mean, a majority of our offensive possessions, or at least our touchdown possessions, we took over across midfield. We were already in opponent territory. Yeah. So there's no need to open up this big vertical attack when you have 39 yards to go to cross the goal line, right? So just dink and dunk it, move the chains, give your defense some rest. They can go get another turnover, wear down UIW, which we did that very quickly. And I think kind of took their energy away, right? Kind of took their gas out of them. I think they probably expected to come out a little bit better than they did. You have a couple of turnovers go the wrong way. UTSA scores easily. And then all of a sudden there was a very dejected UIW team by the time you're into the second quarter.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm fine with it. but I understand why people want to see more. It's just not time for us to show our cards.
I think another aspect of it too is like, what does the staff feel like they need to work on that week against the FCS opponent? The short passing game was pretty sloppy, I would say, in the first 2 weeks of the season. A lot of plays where the throw was just a little bit off, so the receiver couldn't get good momentum going when they fielded the catch. Um, just some missed reads, stuff like that. So I guess it makes sense that they'd look to work on that and improve on that. But, like Trailer said, like Incarnate Word is loading the box a little bit to try to contain Robert Henry. And traditionally, when you do that, or when you're trying to counteract that, you're not throwing out wide with bubble screens, you're attacking vertically. So it
Mm-hmm.
was interesting to see UTSA not try that, because to tie these 2 points together, the deep passing is where Owen is struggling the most. He's only completed 2 of his 16 attempts of 20-plus yards down the field. 2 of
On the
16
year, not
on the
yes,
year.
not against UIW. On
Yeah.
the year, Owen is 2 for 16 on attempts of 20 or more yards. That is appalling. Jeff Traylor actually mentioned in his presser that he expected for the deep pass to be much better to start the year off, considering where it was to end last season. This team was very good on the deep ball in November of 2024.
Yeah. I think the good news though is it's really close, right? It's not like Owen is wildly missing throws. I mean,
Sure.
when we get into the Colorado State preview to make the comparison, like their quarterback is missing bad on some of his throws. His mechanics are totally off. Owen is just like, it's just like right there, just that little tiny bit of touch that he's missing. So it's easy to squint your eyes a little bit and to see him returning to form where he's hitting consistently those fade routes, those goad routes, those posts, those deep corners, right? He's shown he can do it. He's got it in him. It's like those slight adjustments. And honestly, Adrian, I think some of that stuff does fall on the wide receivers. Think back to the Tech State game, all those fade routes that UTC had open, there was all that space on the sideline, and Owen throws it back shoulder like he's supposed to, and the receivers aren't looking for it to the outside. So, who knows how much of that goes on the other routes as well, like on the post routes and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I did notice that really long completion that Owen threw to AJ Wilson. It was like a skinny post route. And I was wondering, was that the play call for it to be the skinny post, or did Wilson just run it that way? And Owen connected with him on it, right? So it's like all those tiny, small little things that make a big difference. Because Owen was behind him a little bit on that throw. It was not a
Right.
perfect throw.
He was, yeah. He kind of had to contort his body all the way around to
Yep.
go and get it.
Yeah, great play from AJ.
But it was an 80-yard pass downfield, damn near. I mean, it's a deep ball to get in front of a receiver at that point. But yes, he did have to contort, go back to get it, and it comes down to reps, right? It's a game of inches, and so whether you're looking over your inside shoulder or your outside shoulder, that's the difference between a caught ball or a dropped or just a miss, an incompletion. And you gone through a lot of reps with your receiving core last year. Now you have a generally new receiving core because you've got a lot of guys injured, right? David Amador's injured. William McCoy's been a little bit tweaked or limited in his snaps. And so you've got to kind of rework on that chemistry within AJ Wilson, with I don't know, gosh, even with a DJ Allen. So
yeah, that
and
receiver room quietly is in a bit of trouble when it comes to depth. We've got Jamel Hardy's been out all season long. I don't know what to expect from Elliot Brow, but he's been listed as number 2, a slot at the depth chart all season, and I don't think he's dressed out yet. I think Mekhi Anderson may be injured. He fell off the depth chart this week. He's not even on kick return on the depth chart. And Amador, obviously, we don't know his status for this week. It doesn't sound like it's anything too crazy or major, but he's been banged up even going back into fall camp.
right.
And then there's one other receiver I'm missing. Oh, yeah, Jalen Smith, the Michigan State transfer, hasn't played this year due to injury as well. So they're okay, right? They've got the starters there. They're doing okay. But it's getting into it's getting into the danger zone a little bit there. So keep an eye
and that's another thing that we had some of our listeners ask about on our trauma hotline call was, where's the star wideout on this team? And so we kind of got into how we're a little bit more thin this year than we have been in the past, and where we've had a receiving room that's been very, very full. And the difference is, developing this chemistry, I think, for the first time with new guys like an AJ Wilson, like a DJ Allen, or like the guys that still haven't gotten any game reps that you mentioned. But Owen McCown still has not thrown a single interception in 2025. He's not making huge mistakes. He's not really making any mistakes. He's just not threading the needle like we were used to seeing him last year. And I think it's really just more so developing the chemistry with the receivers. Yeah, maybe he's missed on a couple here and there, but I think once those guys know where to be or know where Owen is going to throw it, that's going to sort of smoothen out. And as the season progresses, we'll see that get better. But he
Yeah,
does need to do better about getting it in front of guys rather than behind them.
You're right. Leave the receiver a little bit better. Another point too is all those injuries to the second string and third string guys are forcing a tighter rotation at receiver, so that could speed up the process of Owen getting in the sync. With Devin McEwen, he's been fine with him, I think, for the most part. But with like AJ Wilson and Willie McCoy and stuff like that. So we'll see if that improves things or not. But I imagine it's harder when you're throwing to 6 or 7 different guys in a game versus 3 or 4.
One of the other things that Jeff Traylor mentioned about Owen is that it was really emphasized over last week that he needs to start going through all of his progressions, go through all of his reads, rather than picking a receiver, staring him down, and throwing it. And Jeff Traylor seemed to be very, very happy with how Owen went through those progressions against UIW.
Yeah, I noticed the improvement as well. Yeah, he didn't always have the option that he wanted, and it didn't always turn into like you find the check down that's wide open and it's a 15-yard play. But you could just see him working through the system a little bit more, which is good. And hopefully that, it's been nice to see him use his feet and, be a threat on the running game, but you would hope that you could find a guy that's open. So Owen doesn't have to take that risk and, take a hit.
Right.
So we'll see, but it did look better. We're probably a little critical of Owen, but I think he was improved in this game. I thought he played well. And like you said, Adrian, as long as he's not turning the ball over and he's not completely dragging down his offense, which he's not, it's going to be fine.
That's right. Yeah. And he was able to break out on a couple of scrambles when he needed to. He hits 3 receivers for more than 5 receptions a pop on AJ Wilson, Devin McEwen, and DJ Allen. So, yes, going through progressions and spreading the ball out. And then he boots a 40-yard punt downfield.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Owen McCown is the Swiss Army knife, can do it all with the ball in his hand. This podcast will always be Team Owen. I think it's kind of crazy to be calling for a backup that we really haven't
go look
seen.
At some of the YouTube comments on some of JJ's videos, and there's a huge Brandon Tennyson contingent of fans out there calling for him to if not start, at least start getting some snaps. So.
It's crazy because we haven't really seen anything from Brandon Tennyson. So I don't know like where this belief that he's going to be this sort of godsend comes from. However, I will say it would have been nice to see him get reps a little bit earlier against UIW and maybe get to throw the ball with the ones a little bit rather than the entire offense getting rotated. Starters get pulled all together. Second string and third string go out there all together. It would have been nice to have some skill guys go in with the other ones, particularly Tennyson, and just see what he could do. You had the availability to do it. You're up 31-0 in the third quarter. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I agree as well. Trailer said the Tulsa game last year spooked him, but you can put Owen back in if you really need to, right? So okay. I would have liked to see Tennyson get some work as well with the ones. So kind of a missed opportunity, but
can I just mention right here that the ammunition of the Tulsa game to bust that out during an FCS halftime is wild to me. Like you could have kept that in the back pocket for whenever we really needed it in the middle of October. Because is the Tulsa reference going to hit as hard the second time you're talking about it after you brought it up against the Cardinals? You're up 24-0. Like that's wild to me. It's wild that we brought up the Tulsa game at this halftime. I mean, I get the parallels. But, dude, that's good ammunition to give some motivation to your boys. You hold that for whenever you really need it. Come on.
Yeah, fair. Obviously, we got to talk about Robert Henry. Another amazing game for him. You're starting to see the defenses adjust to him a little bit, but he's still getting his. He continues his insane streak of popping off these 70-plus yard touchdown runs. right at the start of the third quarter.
This first touch of the third quarter in 3 straight games, having 75-plus yard untouched touchdown runs. What is going on? This guy is
It's
running
truly
out of his
wild.
mind. Out of his mind. However, Jared, if you take that run out, Robert Henry only has about 70 yards on the day on
Mhm.
13 attempts. It's actually not as good of an outing for Robert Henry as he's had in the first 2 weeks. Jeff Traylor gave a lot of credit to the UIW defensive coordinator, Jim Gush. Jim Gush.
I don't recall.
Yes. He gave a lot of credit to Jim Gush in just his ability as a defensive coordinator to shut down the run game. And so there was
Yeah, I
just kind of
thought
a
Incarnate
respect
Word's
given.
linebackers were as good as we expected. Declan Williams was really solid. He was fun to watch, and I want to give credit to you because I was going to criticize UTSA's offensive line. The run blocking wasn't as consistent. There was not a ton of push, especially compared to even the A&M game. Honestly, there was more push up front, which is crazy. So I'm leaning more towards crediting UIW's offensive line on, or sorry, UIW's defensive line on that than I am for criticizing UTSA's OL because they do have talent up there. They've got some big dudes, and they played really hard. So, but I think that's probably the main reason why the success rate of those runs was lower, just because there wasn't that push.
Yeah. 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 We got it taken to us a little bit. And it's not what you expected against a formidable defensive line in UIW. You kind of expected these guys to dominate them off the ball a little bit more. But to that same point, Jared, it was another really good day of pass blocking.
Yeah,
Owen had really really clean pocket again. No sacks allowed. So I don't know, but yeah, it was different. We've seen much more dominant run blocking from the first 2 games than we did against UIW.
yep, yeah. So I don't know. Got another strong defense coming up this week, or strong defense against the run at least. So we'll see how that turns out. But given how good they looked against A&M and Texas State for the most part, I think that it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the defense a little bit more. So we
Oof.
mentioned the 4 turnovers they generated. Front 7 again was really strong. Incarnate Word pretty much had to abandon the run because they couldn't get anything going there. But then UIW makes a quarterback change. They start the second half and they bench Richard Torres and bring in
EJ Colson.
Colson. Yeah.
17 for 24, 213 yards, 3 touchdowns. Kind of a filthy third quarter for EJ Colson.
He's kind of a ball player, dude. Like,
it's kind of a dog.
I don't know if I want to go so far as to say he's gonna be the top half of quarterbacks that UTSA faces this year. But he did some things that like Marcel Reed couldn't do against UTSA.
Fair. Very fair.
He's kind of got it. I think that UTSA settled in that fourth quarter. They kind of adjusted to his style of play because it was very different than Torres, right?
Yes.
Torres was such a statue back there. You could tell the game's just too fast for him, and he couldn't go through his reads quick enough. But then whenever they brought in Colson, he was able to move out of the pocket and make some really nice throws on the run. So I didn't freak out about that third quarter as much as other people did because I really thought that guy was making some plays that were very impressive. And
we also weren't prepared to play him. I mean, and Jeff
right.
Traylor was very transparent when he mentions we didn't prepare.
Yeah.
For EJ Colson, he said I think he said I wish Clint would have told us he was going to play them both because we didn't prepare for. Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you shouldn't be spending practice reps for an FCS game day preparing for their backup quarterback. I mean, come on. It's, and so, yeah, I mean, that sort of thing happens. He comes in, it's a completely different pace, a completely different style. You're already kind of in the cruise control mode as a defense, forcing turnovers. You've got a donut so far on the day,
31-point lead.
Come on, so I mean, guys are starting to slow down a little bit, and then all of a sudden, UIW brings in a new quarterback and they get a new burst of energy, and you do have to adjust to that. I don't think there's a whole lot of reading into it that you need to do if you're trying to break down
Yeah.
UTSA's defense. As far as what they did not do well against UIW, EJ Colson's play, I don't think should really be very high on that list.
Yeah, I did see him highlight some of the technique, mechanical concerns that I have with the secondary, or really just the defense's coverage in general. There was a touchdown that Colson threw where
Mm-hmm.
Owen Pee-wee was like, in that kind of nickel corner position, and the slot receiver did a wheel route, and Owen was like 15, 20 yards away from the quarterback, but he was still like staring back into the backfield as the receiver like crossed his face and turned upfield to, take that vertical route. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, Owen, what are you doing, man? Like turn and run with this guy. So he gave up too much separation there, which is concerning. And then also there was a touchdown throw where UTSA was in like just basic Tampa 2 zone coverage, like one of the most basic defenses in all of football. And Elijah Newell was like way out of position. Like, I think it was a dagger concept where you have one receiver that runs a fade route and then the other receiver runs like a deep end. Um, and if you're the safety, you got to take the most vertical route. And Newell was like jumping on that the deep end route, so that left that back half of the field just completely uncovered. So like when you're watching it live, you're like, oh, Davin Martin just got toasted, but that wasn't the case at all, right? Newell was in the wrong position, and because he left his back pedal and he had like his hips angled in towards the field, he couldn't like flip his body to run and try to catch up with that receiver that ran the fade route. So these are all just very basic, secondary coverage techniques that really anyone that's on the field for UTSA shouldn't be making. That's very concerning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and yeah, concerning was the exact word that Jeff Traylor used, talking about it's two busted coverages. EJ comes out, he throws a 38-yard touchdown pass, he throws a 36-yard touchdown pass. It's ridiculous, and those are two busted coverages, and we've kind of been looking at the advanced stats of this, and I think we're averaging a little bit over 3 busted coverages per game so far on that secondary, and this has been by a very large margin the biggest issue with this defense is busted coverage, and it seems
It's the only major issue with his defense. I mean, like the pass rush has got to be better. It was better against Incarnate Word, but that secondary wasn't fixed. It may have improved a little bit.
right.
It's hard to tell because we don't have the camera angles that would show us every single play how good the coverage was or not. Um, but if they could just turn, 3 busted coverages per game into 1, this defense is like pretty respectable and could be enough to get UTSA in the mix for a conference championship run. But
Yes,
it's hard to have faith because it's just been a problem for years and years and years now.
it's strange because it doesn't seem to be a skill mismatch, a talent mismatch, right? It's between the ear issues on most of these busted coverages is
Yeah.
more so what it seems. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you talked about it in an earlier week, but I mean, when a receiver is 10 or 15 yards away from the nearest defensive back, that's not a skill issue.
Yeah. You didn't get outran, you didn't get out jumped.
Right,
Right.
right. You just missed something.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got to be better there. Pass rush, Traylor was asked about it, and he gave, I mean, his first word out of his mouth was like a really long, exasperated,
Yeah.
yeah, which
Yeah.
is kind of where the pass rush is right now. It's almost like a
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah. Yeah.
answer.
Well,
Um,
the good news is we saw Nanya and Yanwu come back, and he's a guy that we've just been waiting on for years now. He's coming off of 2 different ACL tears. And he looked really good. He's not fully healthy yet. They can't have him out there every single play. You're going to ease him back. But he dominated that game, Adrian. I mean, he looked like we have expected him to look. The limited time
sure.
he's been healthy, he's been very dominant. That's how
Mm-hmm.
he was against Incarnate Word. I saw him just bulldoze an offensive lineman, just drove him into the turf and went and got a quarterback pressure. So, watch and see how he develops. He could save this season because I just think from an athleticism standpoint, he's the only guy out there that can make it work. So we need him healthy. Um, it's promising. there's hope.
Okay, we got to shout out another guy here.
Yeah.
How about Stone Oak's own Kenny Ozawalu with 3 tackles for loss? This is a red shirt freshman who is thrusted into playing time by way of, team need, and shines. I mean, he absolutely shined against UIW. He was fantastic. He was all over the place. Jeff Traylor gave him a ton of praise. He even said something like, this kid's going to be legendary in this city. He's going to be like Oscar and Frank, which was incredible. Here, Rashad Wisdom, he went through all of like the San Antonio Mount Rushmore guys. But he said that he earned his playing time, even though, we kind of need him to get in there. He's earned it over others.
Well, so keep in mind, he doesn't play that will linebacker position. Like, he's a defensive lineman. So when he's getting playing time, he's beating out Power 4 transfers. He's beating out Damian Wimberly from SMU. He's beating out Johnny Bowens from Oregon. He's beating out Kyan Roberts-Day from Baylor. Freshman walk-on, man.
Freshman walk-on, and he does his celebration is a guy walking. This is what he does when he gets those.
Okay,
when he gets the tackles. When he gets the tackles for loss, he's doing this number right here. Because he's a walk. Because I'm a walk-on, baby. Okay. You better know that's a walk-on that just sacked your ass. I mean, like, that's incredible. That's great. Again, Reagan High School, San Antonio, Stone Oak's very own. Let's go.
Yeah, and he totally looks the part. 6'4", 270. Yes. And his first step off the line is so fast. Super high ceiling, I think. It is rare to say that for a walk-on, but yeah.
Yeah. Jeff Traylor was already talking about how we need to start taking care of him. And so a really, really large potential for this guy. And what an exciting development. What an exciting development for this defensive line. What if the next great UTSA pass rusher is indeed a local guy who comes in here and gets it done?
It's funny too, because we talked in the offseason that we were both really skeptical that the pass rush was going to come from the will position like it has historically. Yeah. But we felt like there was going to be some defensive line pressure. But I think both of us thought that was going to be a Johnny Bowens, that was going to be Damian Wimberly, that's going to be Kevin Blaylock, someone like that. And for it to be Kenny Ozawalu, that's nuts. But it goes to show how good the talent evaluation and development is at that position for UTSA.
We're not going to call him the next Davenport yet, but
way too early.
Could he continue developing and really become a force? We're very excited about Kenny Ozawalu, man. Yeah, hometown.
Well, Adrian, speaking about a force, Shad Banks is well on his way to having one of the best single-season linebacker performances in UTSA football history.
Wow.
The hype, the expectations for him were so high. And I think we've made comments like this defense will only be as good as Shad Banks allows it to be, and stuff like that. He's living up to it almost every snap. I mean, he's just all over the field. He's got a knack for the football. Sometimes you see those guys that they're around the play all the time, but they don't make the play. Shad Banks makes the play, right? I think he had like one interception that was right in his hands that he missed.
Yeah.
But all the other times, like, he's picked up the fumble, he's grabbed the pick, he's gotten the tackle for loss, he's gotten that open field tackle on third down. What an impressive showing it's come from him.
Yeah. A nose for the football, Jared. A nose for the football. Just to before we get off of that front seven and in particular the defensive line, it was said that the defensive line had gotten a little bit stagnant in themselves, and probably part of the reason why Kenny Ozawalu was thrusted in and played as good as he did. But allegedly, defensive line coach Deke Haynes tore into some dudes this past week. And Jeff Traylor references Bobby Knight, Coach Bobby Knight of college basketball greatness, and says AOB, AOB. He keeps saying AOB, which was a Bobby Knight phrase that essentially literally translate an acronym that translates literally to ass on bench. And here's Jeff Traylor in the middle of like a public presser talking about AOB, AOB. Defensive line got stagnant and now we're putting asses on the bench. And
nice.
I thought that was like, we talk about like over the fall camp, there's like a new culture of discipline
Mm-hmm.
coming around the Roadrunners, and the leash is going to be shorter, and that's one of those things. That's a perfect case in point right there to that.
Yeah, well, that kind of pivots into one of the last couple things I want to talk about here on Incarnate Word is, we're definitely seeing the coaching staff, I think, really make a big emphasis on discipline,
Yeah.
and it's been better than last year for sure, especially on the pre-snap stuff. But we're still seeing some disciplinary issues. Robert
Mm-hmm.
Henry has gotten called for, or should have been called for, taunting several times now, and he probably should have been ejected against Incarnate Word
It got
because he
ugly.
had a taunting penalty on his third quarter touchdown because he like hands the ball to the opponent, right? And then he had a really nice like 12-yard run that I had in my film breakdown. And if you watch that one, he like pushes the guy way after the whistle. So that would have been his second personal foul. He should have got ejected from that. Additionally, Kyan Roberts Day, and it was like a dirty and over aggressive play from Incarnate Word that set him off. But you have to be smarter, right? He got up and his helmet was off, and I think he swung at a guy, tried to punch him.
It's
So that's
crazy.
supposed to be an ejection anytime you throw a punch. And I think they just gave him an offsetting foul. But you saw the coaches just absolutely drill into him, like they were barking at him for like a whole minute or two straight. So, it's good to see that stuff get an instant response from the coaching staff because
Mm-hmm.
last year that wasn't the case. Last year
Right.
guys would do stuff like that and they would just stay out there in the field, like no problem at all.
And
So,
it's funny because Robert Henry does seem to have been pretty buttoned up from the first 2 weeks,
yeah,
but we saw that
he's feeling
frustration
himself.
against UIW.
I
He's feeling
understand.
himself, and he wasn't having a great day running the football, as we
No,
referenced, without that 75-yard tear that he goes off of. So maybe a little bit of frustration leaked in against UIW as well. He expected himself to have a better day.
yeah.
Last thing we got to talk about, Jared, is the special teams. Jeff Trailers mentions that the punt teams were better as far as coverage goes and as far as the
Mhm.
punt kicks go, but the kickoff return team still continues to be pretty disappointing. What did you see from
Yeah.
special teams? What did you like, dislike?
Well, it was good to see a couple of field goals for Michael Petro, and
Yes.
they weren't long ones. I think it's like 31, 34 yards or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
nice to see. Hopefully, a confidence boost for him. He's probably feeling a lot of pressure right now. So good to see that. I
Yeah.
thought, yeah, punt coverage was fine, no problems there. Kickoff team, Jafar Murphy had a kick go out of bounds again. Continues to be an issue. We've just been very spoiled with the kickoff specialist, but I also feel like it's a fair expectation to have a guy who can just get a touchback every time. It shouldn't be that hard. I could probably only kick it like 25 yards if you put me out there, and I'd probably stub my toe and couldn't walk right for 3 weeks. To be fair, but it's disappointing to see, especially a guy that you used a scholarship on from the portal.
Yeah.
What really concerns me still, though, is like the kickoff returns. I think there were two different returns that UTSA got stopped at like the 20th and the 19th or something like that, where when you do a fair catch, you get to the 25. I just don't see a lot of physicality from those units. Even against an inferior level of talent at the SCS level, you're not seeing guys blow them up and get these huge blocks and create these huge holes. And in fact, sometimes you see the opposite. You're seeing the UTSA guy get blown backwards, get knocked down themselves. And that just can't happen. You got to find some guys that have some dog in them. You need to go find some walk-ons from East Texas that
Mm-hmm.
are hungry for an opportunity, and you got to put them on the field, let them cook.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Remember Duke Wheeler?
Ooh, that's a great name drop, dude. He was a
Deep cut, I
savage.
know, but he was short. He wasn't very fast, but he was a dog.
That's all.
And
It was just. It was here.
they put him out there on special teams, and he'd fly down the field. He'd blow them up, and then eventually he got his chance, to contribute on the defense. So,
Yeah.
um, there's got to be some guys like that on the roster. Give him a chance. Get him to do that 12th man thing. Play with some fury, and I think that'll improve things.
Great name drop, Jared.
Thanks. You're always going to get one deep cut. Before we hit a cumbia break and start to talk about the Colorado State Rams, I do want to give everyone a reminder that this is your last week to upgrade to the booster tier on Patreon to unlock the free merch drop that we give out every year. You also get a bonus gift if you're at the Big Buddy donor tier. or the Board of Trustees tier. So be smart, like Philip Ballman, who upgraded from the Insider tier to the Booster tier, and will receive the gift. We are going to end that promotion at the end of this week, heading into Colorado State. So act soon, or you'll miss out.
Excellent.
Speaking of our Board of Trustee members, I do want to say thank you, as always, to Digiteek, John Outwell, Gary and Ruben represent the UTSA Burger King Tailgate, Ray Redding, Andy Elizada, Proficient Benefit Solutions, Ian McClendon and Secret LLC, Javan Townsend, President of the DFW chapter of the UTSA Alumni Association, Waterman Construction, UTSA Annual Giving, Brandon Padron, UTSA King Bowser, and Runners United, or you can go to www.goutsa.co to support UTSA student athletes. And I guess I don't know if Runners United has anything to do with this as well, but how cool is it that they have Turnpike Troubadours playing a benefit show for UTSA Athletics and Cowboys? Like, dude, that is the coolest thing ever. My wife heard about it before I even told her. Like, this is big. Great job, UTSA. It's awesome.
Big time, man. Really, really cool. The text messages have been flying in regards to this, especially with my buddies that are in San Antonio. The poster is amazing. So cool. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like how awesome. Yeah, I think tickets are flying for that. So
if someone from the athletic department is listening to this, like I'll probably pay like $30 for that poster, honestly. Like,
for
could
sure.
be a money-making opportunity.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great man cave edition right there, dude.
Yeah, 100%.
All
right, guys, well, let's hit this. Could be a break, and we'll come back to talk about CSU. Guys, welcome back. It's time to jump into this week's opponent, the Colorado State University Rams. This is an opponent that UTSA does have a pretty good level of familiarity with, both on the field and off. UTSA is 0-2 against CSU. Some very tough losses. The one that really I remember was a Dalton Sturm game in Colorado State. In Fort Collins at the old stadium. I was there in person.
Yeah.
And the LSU transfer defensive back, what was his name? Frank Wilson era. He was a track guy.
Yep.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Oh, it's killing me. It's going to kill me. Anyways, pick six hits him like right square in the chest. He drops it. UTSA wins that game if you can hold on to it. I think there was also like some goal line stand that UTSA got stuffed like 3 or 4 times. Couldn't punch it in. Just 100% a game that should have been won. Probably is a win in the trailer era. Wilson's team just couldn't pull it out. It was a tough one.
Yep. Both of those were very, very tight, man. Very, very close.
Yeah, I have it pulled up here. 2015 in San Antonio, 33-31 CSU. And then the 2016 game's the one I'm talking about. That was a 23-14 loss.
Yes.
But, not only have these teams seen each other on the field, there's also a lot of kind of personal connections. UTSA athletic director Lisa Campos, it's our alma mater. They're at Colorado State, and UTSA head coach Jeff Traylor and CSU head coach Jay Norvell go way back as well. Norvell recruited Gilbert when he was at Oklahoma, and of course they were on the same coaching staff at the University of Texas whenever Charlie Strong was the head coach there. So these guys are super close. They know each other. A lot of times you hear Coach Traylor's interviews and he talks about, I'm good friends with this guy, but, doesn't say a whole lot. When he was talking about Jay Norvell, he was really sharing some stories, and you can tell there's a really high level of familiarity and respect there as well.
Was it Jordan Moore?
Yes.
Is that the right name?
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, it's funny. So Jeff and Jay were together under Charlie Strong at UT, but Jeff also mentioned that Jay was at Oklahoma when Jeff was still coaching at Gilmore. So they already kind of had like a connection together as far as recruits and getting guys up to the next level. So yeah, their history does go back, but Jeff even went into, whenever they first got to Austin together and they were kind of roommates in the hotel during camp under Charlie Strong and talking ball all the time. So yeah, very close is how he says it, which, seems like Jeff Traylor's very close with a lot of our opposing coaches. But this is another one of those in particular. But it's an interesting time for Jay Norvell right? Because
Mhm.
for the most part has done a pretty good job at CSU. I mean, he took over a 3-win team in 2022. And despite not improving very much record wise that first season, he did do a lot of intangible things to sort of set them up for success.
Mhm.
3 wins in 2022, 5 wins in 2023. Last year, the Rams go 8-5. They go 6-1 in the Mountain West Conference and end up finishing in second place. And then this year in the preseason, pundits have them listed as a dark horse contender or favorite to win the Mountain West Conference. Fast forward, and they come out and have a pretty tough loss to Washington, where it's 38-21, so they lose pretty handily. But maybe it's a final score that
Yeah, but
is not indicative
that
of
game
how
was a
good.
lot closer than the score was. A lot
Exactly,
closer.
exactly that. But then the next week, Jared, they barely skate by Northern Colorado 21-17. Was that one indicative of how that game went? Or was that one also, was Colorado State up for most of that game, then Northern Colorado kind of comes back and makes it a close one at the end?
No, Colorado State lost that game, Adrian. They
Yeah,
lost that game.
they squeak out because they're down 14-17 and they score a touchdown in the fourth
No.
quarter.
Northern Colorado caught the game-winning touchdown in the final seconds.
Yeah.
The refs go and review the catch, and they overturn it on nothing. I mean, I watched that play repeatedly, and I never saw an angle that showed anything that could overturn the call of a touchdown on the field. It's a total ref job. They lost
Man,
that game. They lost that
hometown
game, and the refs gave them the win.
was a hometown call.
Really brutal. The game was fluky, though. To be fair, Colorado State had a lot of turnovers, a lot of fumbles in particular. They did not execute well. They didn't look good for sure. So you got to give Northern Colorado a lot of credit. But obviously, the same as UTSA. When you look at how up and down they've been this year, the truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I guess that's the big question. How good or not is Colorado State?
Yeah, and you mentioned that it's kind of a key time for Norvell because this is a contract year for him. And if you're a college football coach, like the last year in your contract is not a contract year; it's the year before. If you're in the last year, you're fired. Right? They are finding another replacement for you 9 times out of 10. So that's where Norvell is at right now. Like he hasn't gotten his contract extension, and might be able to argue that he deserved it after last year. But Colorado State's a program that has high expectations because they do invest a lot. Like I was looking at operational budgets the other day. UTSA and Texas State are both, I think, like, well, I might get this wrong, but pretty much like Colorado State's like 60-70% higher operating budget than UTSA has.
Wow.
They built a new stadium. It's really nice, beautiful stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Coach staff's well paid. They're getting some really good players in the portal, so they're pumping a lot of money, a lot of commitment in that program. So an 8-win season for them probably doesn't line up with how they're investing. So if Norvell has similar results this year or worse, they could pull the plug on him. And I've even seen some, sports writers in Colorado say that, the next like 3 or 4 weeks are like the critical stretch for Norvell. Because
Sure.
if he doesn't win the majority of those, like you got to start the process to find a coach. That's how it works these days, right? You want to have a guy identified and move quickly because the portal opens as soon as you fire that coach. So you want to.
Let's not fail to mention this is their last year in the Mountain West Conference, Jared.
Right.
They're going to the Pac-12, which we can call it lateral or whatever we want, but in the university's eyes, that is a step up, and so they have larger expectations that come with that, and so you need to be taking care of business before you move conferences over, so that you go into the Pac-12 and expect to dominate. And you talk about the next 3 to 4 weeks being so critical. Do you know who they're playing the next 3 to 4 weeks? All of their future conference opponents, Jared.
Yeah.
You have Washington State, San Diego State, Fresno State. Yeah, that is the new Pac-12. So you're damn right. You are coaching for your job, whatever you're going up against your future conference opponents in the Pac-12. Yeah, so like everything is coming to a breaking point for Colorado State and Jay Norvell. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the position that Norvell's in that makes it really difficult is he recruited this high school kid that I liked a lot. I wrote a blog post a couple years ago where I'm like, five Texas high school football recruits that don't have any Division One offers yet that UTSA should be the first to offer. One of the guys that I point on there was Alito quarterback Braden Fowler Nicolosi. I was really high on him. I thought he had all kinds of talent, arm talent, was athletic, all of that. UTSA didn't offer him. Not a lot of schools did. Braden goes out and wins state with Alito that year. Goes to Colorado State. Starts as a freshman. I think he beat Colorado before Coach Prime got there.
I think so. Yeah, 2022.
Led up to
Yeah,
an 8-win
2022.
season last year. So he's got a high ceiling, right? And he's got a lot of those same tools, the big arm, tall guy, can move around, but his consistency has been a big problem this year. His mechanics have taken a step backwards. He's throwing off platform all the time. He's making super risky throws, ill advised. You can sense probably a little bit of frustration on his part when you watch him play. It feels like he's really trying to force some big plays and make explosives happen and not just letting the offense come to him and take things naturally. So he's a team captain, and it was crazy to me to see that they opened up the quarterback competition again in the bye week for a team captain that had won a lot of games last year. You just don't see that happen too often, but like the way he was playing, it's justified, I think. He did end up winning and protecting his starting spot, but it's still just, I think, goes to show the level of, I guess, apprehension out there in Fort Collins.
I'd say the level of desperation out there in Fort Collins and what's considered a make or break season. You have a bye week after just 2 games into the year, and you're clawing at different solutions, right? Like you are grasping at thin air on trying to figure this thing out. So it smells a little bit desperate to me to go and run a quarterback competition in there. But you're right. Through 2 games, he hasn't played well. He's thrown 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions. He's hardly completing 50% of his passes. Nice. 30 for 57 on the year. So yeah, it hasn't been a very good start for Nicolosi, but
to be honest with you, Adrian, I think part of this problem, and in the research I've done for Colorado State, I haven't seen this come up too often yet. They're pulling Fowler Nicolosi out of the game pretty often. They went and got this transfer. I think he came from a MAC school, and he's like a wildcat kind of quarterback. He's like a gadget guy. So they'll come in and they have packages for him. They put him at wide receiver. They're just trying to find ways to get him the ball. But I feel like every time they take Fowler Nicolosi out of the offense and rebuilt the offense around Taj Bullock. It's getting Fowler Nicolosi out of his flow. I think it's messing with his mental a little bit. But Taj Bullock is getting results. He's been really good. He's got a couple touchdowns on the year, I believe.
But Taj Bullock isn't throwing the ball. The only person that's thrown the ball is Nicolosi, right? Yeah. So Taj is strictly in there as this wildcat run the ball option, right? Direct snaps, and he's going to run it out. But he's only thrown 1 pass through the 2 games. The only guy that's throwing is Nicolosi. So I think that's a great point. Yeah, you're getting the guy out of the groove.
You're taking the ball out of his hands, though, is what I'm trying to say.
It's frustrating. He's got to get frustrated. He's getting out of his groove. He's falling out of his momentum. Yeah, and so if I'm the guy that's throwing the ball and then you're putting another guy in there and he's not even backing up to throw, and it's not like this, because a lot of times you see the wildcat come like a very specific scenarios, very specific situation. This is just something that's just like a part of their repertoire. They're just putting it out there. Mm-hmm. Kind of like from any point on the field and from any down and distance situation. It's just a part of their play call. Yeah, that's frustrating. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yep. And I'll say too, this is kind of a Jay Norvell thing, right? I don't know if he's the play caller or not, but he has a huge level of control on offense. It's always been like that. And his offenses are very complex. They do a lot. They've got a very, very deep playbook. They do a lot of gadget plays, trick plays, and stuff like that. So I think maybe they've overcomplicated this offense. They've installed too much, maybe. So I'm curious to see if maybe they tone it down against UTSA this week, come out of the bye week, and kind of go back to the basics and put a little bit more faith and trust in Fowler Nicolosi to just run the offense.
On that note, only 19 total yards on 11 attempts rushing for Taj Bullock. And I don't know how much of that is him getting blown up in the backfield or whatever, but I don't know how
Well,
effective the
some of that is
push
like goal line
Bobcats have been.
package that he comes in and there's not a lot of yards to attain.
Only one touchdown
Yeah,
rushing. So I don't know. Yeah.
it's kind of
Jay
forced.
Norvell's it's forced, too big of a playbook. Dumb it down, less is more, keep it simple, yada yada.
Yeah. Another issue that Fowler Nicolosi has working against him is he's had to like pretty much replace his whole receiving core. I was looking at like their outbound transfers for the wide receivers. It was pretty brutal. A lot of names that I recognized on that list. So they've got some pretty good guys in as well. I don't think that there's like a complete dearth of talent there. I think just kind of like what we're seeing with UTSA as well. Like there's some missing chemistry between those guys. Um, so I just think anytime you got to replace a lot of those pass catchers like that, it can be a challenge. Jordan
Sure.
Ross is a guy that's broken out for him. He's a good player. Armani Winfield looks pretty good out wide as well. So I think he's got some dudes to throw to. They've got good tight ends as well. I can't remember the name, but there's one guy who just kept getting open to the seam repeatedly against
Jackson
Washington.
Warren. Jackson
Okay,
Warren.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then they
Jackson
got
Warren.
that guy from FIU. I think his name was like Rowdy Beers or something like that. He's always on like the all name teams. But they've got some really tough, strong physical tight ends and some really talented running backs as well, man.
Yeah, but again, all those guys are kind of struggling with moving the ball. Like Jackson Warren is actually the team's leading receiver right now at tight end as a sophomore. 7 receptions, 95 yards through those 2 games. Rushing the ball, Jalen Dupree is their primary running back. This guy's a freshman, 28 attempts already on the season, averaging well over 5 yards per carry, 150 yards on the season. And then they've got a sophomore running back behind him, Lloyd Avant, who's also getting a good amount of carries and who's also running over 5 yards per carry himself. So yeah, this is a young, talented young stable between Jalen and Lloyd.
Yeah, I like Dupree a lot, man. He looks the part. He's a really well built back, but he's got speed to him as well. He kind of reminds me of some Sincere McCormick a little bit, and his running style and his physicality and all that. A really good player for them. What's really interesting with Colorado State's struggles on offense, and this does parallel with UTSA a little bit. Their offensive line's playing really well. So how these teams are able to have these strong offensive lines that don't make that a building block of a really cohesive, efficient offense is kind of mind-boggling to me, because that's always been like the core tenet of football. It's like, if you're good in the trenches, you're going to find ways to win. But they're big, strong, nasty, and physical. They haven't had too many blown assignments. They move guys around. Yeah, the offenses continue to struggle.
It's interesting because 21 points in each of their 2 games. It does feel like the offense is very limited in how they're able to attack and what they've been successful at. And so it's actually really, really strange that Vegas has this as a 1 possession game, when UTSA only favored by 4.5 right now. Whenever you look at all of the struggles that the skill positions, the ball carriers are having at Colorado State. But right now, the Lions have it as a toss-up, and I find that fascinating because it
Well,
seems like they're having a lot of struggles.
if UTSA is a 4.5 point favorite on the road, they're a whole touchdown favorite on neutral ground. So to me, that's a pretty big number.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because the UTSA secondary is so poor. So if
Right.
Colorado State's going to get their passing game turned around, like now's the week to do it, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So let's talk about this CSU defense a little bit. I was watching their defense play. I'm like, man, they look pretty good. Like very fundamentally sound. They've got some really good, efficient players on defense. A lot of talent. And then I looked it up. They got a new defensive coordinator this year, Tyson Summers. He was the head coach at Georgia Southern. They ran that guy out of town. They did not like him. But I feel like as a group of 6 program, anytime you can get a former FBS head coach as a coordinator, that's a coup. And he's probably going to do a really good job. Tyson Summers has had these guys ready to go. They look really well prepared, well positioned. So I've really liked what I've seen out of the defense. Owen Long is the guy to know here. He's going to be one of the best linebackers in the conference this year. A really big freshman season. Got voted as a team captain, and he's looked elite this year. He's put up a lot of production in the first 2 games, and is going to be the number one guy to look out for in this defense for UTSA.
Yeah, 15 solo tackles, 24 total for Owen Long on the year. He's also got into the backfield for a tackle for loss. And I think another one you got to look at is Lamondre Joe. He seems to be the one that's causing all of the havoc in the backfield. A couple sacks on the year, 1.5 tackles for loss. And I mean, those two guys have given people some fits.
Yeah, Lamondre Joe is actually a defensive back though, so they're bringing him to blitz, right? Him and Jahari Rogers in the secondary have been pretty solid this year. They don't grade out that well on PFF, but from the clips I've seen, from what I've watched, like they seem to be pretty well positioned, and maybe they've gotten beat on some good plays from the offense. But those are 2 transfers that have come in. That's been an area of concern for them historically. New defense coordinator brought some transfers in. It's looking a lot better for them in the secondary. So, we'll see. The advanced stats don't like their passing defense all that much. So we'll see if Owen McCallan's able to really get it going in the deep ball and see if he can test these guys deep.
I think, you've really got to open it up here, Jared. You need a big passing game before conference play starts to, I think, really sort of shake off all of the rust that we've kind of seen so far through the out-of-conference slate, to get these guys momentum going, to get them back in the groove of things. If you can have a good day from Owen and his wide receivers, and then you have a bye week following that, I think you're in really good shape to feel good about yourself, for the locker room morale to be pretty high going into October and getting into those conference games. But I think you've got to see some explosiveness outside of Robert Henry's 75-yard runs. We have got to see some explosiveness from the passing game. And it's like, it feels like it's got to be this week, or are we ever going to see it this season?
Yep. One interesting stat that I can share with you guys is UTSA struggled on third downs this year because they're facing a lot of third and long. They're not often picking up yardage on that first and second down. Some of that is runs getting stuffed. A lot of it is like short passes that are getting dropped, or they're off the mark or whatever. So UTSA heading into this game is 95th in the country in average third down distance. So on third down, they average 7.3 yards to gain.
Oof.
Colorado State's defense is 128th in the nation in opponents' average third down distance of just 5.8 yards to gain. So to me, there's 2 big statistics that tell how this game is going to go, because it's like one of those, like, something got to give. It's UTSA's awful secondary against a quarterback that's really struggling and is having a crisis in confidence now, but has the talent. And then the other one is that third down and distance, right? Can UTSA find ways to be able to open up the playbook a little bit and have everything available to them on third down, be really efficient executing that? Those 2 question marks are the big ones for me in this game.
It feels like we've been living at third and long. Like we've got a long-term lease at third and long. That's got to improve. That's got to improve. And granted, we were 50% on third downs against UIW, but that's UIW, right? So having a much better day on third down, and to your point, Jared, what does that mean? Is having a better day on first and second down, right? And that's what gets you in those third and long situations where your back's already against the wall and you fail to convert on a couple of those third and longs, and then all of a sudden, like, it's this monkey on your back. It's in the back of your head. Oh gosh, 3rd and 8 again. Can we convert any of these? So you got to see that. You got to see that from this team. Another one of those things I think is closely been tied to the morale as well. And Jeff Traylor was very transparent after the Texas State losses, saying that morale was low. We had low morale in the locker room. I thought it was very, very interesting whenever he was asked about the energy in the locker room following the UIW win, and he completely sidestepped the question and said, "We don't get into that sort of stuff." I was like, "Well, last week you told us the morale was low." It was very classic trailer talk, but it's one of those things where like you've got to improve in those components to really start to feel good about yourself as an offense. Same thing with secondary. You've got to stop those deep passes to start to feel good about yourself on defense. And I don't know that, having a good expected win against UIW is enough to really get yourself feeling good yet. You've got to do it against a better opponent. You've got to do it against Colorado State at the high altitude.
All right, well, I'll go first to my score prediction. I hate to say it.
Oh,
I got Colorado State winning this one.
no.
It was one I was worried about in the preseason, mostly because I knew that Brandon Fowler Nicolosi was coming back. I knew they had a good season last year. I knew that they had good talent on that roster. The reason I'm picking them this week is solely because I have zero trust in UTSA secondary right now.
Holy cow.
None. They're just letting guys free. They look sloppy. They're like poorly coached. They're not communicating well. And Colorado State has the talent to get the ball downfield aggressively. So that's my big concern. And, UTSA is going to have to prove that they can not let receivers get wide open for me to feel confident in picking them against any team that's got a quarterback that can push the ball down the field. So I think Fowler Nicolosi is going to get right after the bye week. I think they're going to simplify the offense. And I think they're going to mercilessly attack the weak point on this defense, which is the secondary. So I'm going to pick Colorado State to win 38-31.
38-31. Wow. So I look, Colorado State, 265 total yards against Washington, 371 total yards against Northern Colorado. The offense has not put up any numbers whatsoever. They've got a lot of struggles. They've been very inconsistent. The playbook's too wide. Can they clean all of that up before going against UTSA on just one single bye week? Are they rallying behind Jay Norvell because they want to go to war for their coach and make sure they protect his job? I don't know. I don't know that I've seen that from Colorado State, that they care that much about the current construction. But it is something that happens. You do see teams rally around their head coach whenever this hot seat conversation starts to come up. But their offense has been non-existent through the first 2 weeks. And so even if UTSA's secondary has its holes, I mean, I just can't see this team going from putting up 21 points through the first 2 games, or in each of the first 2 games, I should say, to the now having, scoring in the upper 30s or breaking a 40 burger. That just seems outlandish to me. I am very, very confident in UTSA's offensive ability against Colorado State. And I have no worry about Colorado State's offense, despite our defensive issues. I think Colorado State's offensive trouble is bigger than UTSA's defensive trouble. And so for that, I'm taking the Roadrunners 34-27. It's a one possession ball game that we're on the right side of this time around. Give me UTSA.
I think that's the biggest point differential difference we've had in pregame predictions in a long time.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where it lands.
Definitely so. Let's hope we got those oxygen masks on the sideline, baby, because we're going to need it.
I think we've set the scene for a really good game this weekend. It is going to be a primetime national broadcast. It's 8:30 Central Time on Fox Sports 1. So if you're really pumped up for this game like we are, good news. We've got a bonus episode coming for you this week over on Patreon. We're going to have Justin from DNVR Sports join us. His podcast is great. I just checked them out for the first time last week, and it's awesome. So if you guys like our coverage, you're definitely going to like what Justin has going on over there. They're on YouTube if you want to check them out over there. So really excited to talk to him and, hear more about, some of the frustrations that, the fan base and men has had with like the success of the program. And of course, at the quarterback, situation, all of that. Sounds like there's a lot of beef about Brandon Fowler, Nicolosi getting spotted out in the bars and stuff like that. So,
Oh,
yeah, that might be interesting.
maybe.
We might get a little Pac-12 discussion, so it should be a good one. I'm excited for it.
Behind the curtains, the only place
That's
you're going to
right.
get that sort of stuff. Look, that's going to be a fantastic talk. I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about this game, Jared. 8:30 kickoff. We're getting some Mountain West After Dark action.
Yeah.
This game will probably be going until midnight on Saturday. So make sure you have some good plans and make sure you've got plenty of time. I mean, or you do have plenty of time to get that brisket on the smoker early with all day to get in there and marinate and then pull it off. And oh my gosh, it's a great day. So Saturday is going to be awesome. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, pace yourself on the drinks though, of course. You don't want to pass out in the third quarter.
I wish someone would have told me that at the Alamo Dome last Saturday. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah,
Definitely
you disappeared for a while. I was wondering what was going on.
Yeah, I woke up in a hotel bedroom. Last thing I'd seen before that was the fourth quarter. So not really sure what happened in between, Jared. We are very, very thankful to all of our Patreons. Make sure you do tune in to our interview with Justin from DNVR Sports. And a big special shout out to our big money donors. That's Ben Tovar, the Bunch family, Zach Espericueta, and the San Antonio Podcast Network, Alejandro Benavides, Dan Nerdall, our host of Around the Birdbath podcast, Jacob Cavazos, former board president for the UTSA Alumni Association, John Nally, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, Sumner McDaniel, Joe Rodriguez, UTSA grad 1998, and Homefield Apparel, where you can use the discount code UTSA Wants Home Field for 15% off your first order. You can also go to the Alamo Audible fan shop and get outfitted in game day gear right here. So thank you. God bless and birds up. Let's go 500 on the out of conference, baby.